Hola a todos, buenas tardes.
Hello, good afternoon to you all. Well, this talk is about something that I've been always obsessed by, or rather since Skype started. That was back in 2003. Of course, I hope I don't have to tell you what Skype is about, but this is a slide as a reminder slide. Well, Skype stopped being independent back in 2011. It was bought by Microsoft, and then second is that Skype is not only used for personal communication, as you all know, but Skype is widely used as at the workplace. It's not a corporate tool, however, it has a strong impact in terms of productivity and performance of workers. So the aim of this talk is kind of to expose Skype as it is nowadays. Why was I so impressed about Skype? Why couldn't I see the same appeal in other type of voice IP communication? And for me, what was the strongest point about it was privacy. Privacy was just a consequence of the global architecture of Skype service. From my viewpoint, there were two key points explaining that level of privacy. The first one being that the Skype protocol used or combined client-server communication or peer-to-peer communication through a key element of the architecture, which are the supernodes. We'll discuss that later on. And the second determining factor is that Skype used to use a proprietary encryption mechanism. So whenever someone was, the formal response of Skype was when someone requested something, Skype said, well, we cannot really do that because we have proprietary mechanisms that, that does not allow us to do any, to provide that information. The thing is, well, Skype is a protocol that had embedded mechanisms for evasion. They were very clever, and that was combined with self-recovery. So if you wanted to reduce or to restrict the width band, you couldn't do it, but Skype then reconnected itself, even if you could not restrict the width of the band. Therefore, I would try to analyze whether those two factors that made Skype different, I would like to see whether they're still on in terms of security and in terms of privacy. Supernodes. Whenever a Skype client logged on, tried to do it through an IP point address, and these were supernodes. In the Skype client established communication, and then the peer-to-peer communications were established. But something wonderful about supernodes is that anyone, without knowing it, could become a supernode. Any Skype user, any system run by the Skype user could become a supernode, of course, provided it complied or fulfilled the number of requirements, such as, I don't know, certain bandwidth, etc. So therefore, you could allow access to Skype to some users, and that user could detect that other users had also access to it, and therefore it accessed the Skype service through one of these supernodes. So at a given point in time, you could just take a look and could see that there were many Skype users that were behaving as supernodes, and each of them could handle around 800 users per each supernodes. One of the things that changed after Microsoft bought Skype is that supernode architecture was maintained. However, individual users or Skype clients could not become supernodes automatically. So that is to say, being upgraded to a supernode, nowadays it's only possible from servers, for instance, Linux, that are hosted in data centers of Microsoft. The analysis that I will show you later on
brevedad.
I did not include it because of questions of brevity, and the analysis that I did confirms that. That is to say, for hours, Skype clients, when it comes to establishing some communication protocols, in the past used to do it through supernodes. Now all the supernodes are hosted in, or IP addresses are hosted in Microsoft data centers. Well, actually, the good thing is that these data centers are more powerful than in the past. Skype encryption. I've always been fascinated by that. In the past, there was no documentation. Existing documentation was kind of obsolete. So, Skype architecture has been changed in terms of supernodes, and then I asked myself, well, what happened with encryption? Did they change that as well? Have they made it more standard encryption? Well, amongst many other good things, when you work in this type of technology companies, you have access to very interesting gadgets. One of those gadgets is the gadget that I will use if I may have your permission. It is one that will let me see whether Skype is using the proprietary node or not. And for that, I have a PC, Skype. I hope you can see well the name of the version. Earlier versions than that behave dramatically different in terms of encryption, but this version or higher versions work, and I will capture in data through a security analytics tool. Well, because this is thought for big data, for, I don't know, 10 gigabytes links, it allows you to cross-index packages and to gather that information from headers, level 7, to keep up another structure for data, detecting security breaches, and that is the main purpose of it. But it is also good to play around with it now and again. Yes, I know that you cannot read it from your seats. Well, if we zoom, well, this is for you to see that it does many cool things. The cool things that we are interested in are SSLs. Well, some of them are recognized as Skype, others as unknown, others from Facebook, then DNS from Microsoft Network, Messenger, Microsoft clients. Interesting. We have SSLs in Skype. To confirm that, we are going to take a look at the names to confirm that that belongs to Skype. I really want to see those names on that SSL traffic. Some of these names are actually generic. Well, information is duplicated here, is doubled. Let me see if I can use the mouse here. So some names refer directly to Skype, others to Facebook, other ones to Skype, to other sites. Messengerlive.com. This is not a surprise, since Microsoft short ago announced that from Skype you can get in contact with linked users. Well, it asks you whether you want to log in with your Skype user or with your Hotmail user. So, what are the important or interesting findings? Whenever I analyze the names of the web servers, after confirming that all these belongs to Skype, I start to see a number of servers that do not really make any sense from the viewpoint of Skype. Then I classify them, I establish categories, and then I see more outstanding activity related to sites that do AdWords or advertising, and then sites that gather users' analytics, to tell us, yes, to measure.
yo me hago mi esquema y digo, vale,
user's activity.
el cifrado de Skype
Well,
tiene
after that, I
pinta de
said,
que, al
okay,
menos en parte,
Skype
se ha cambiado de
encryption
ese protocolo propietario, de
looks
ese
that
sistema de cifrado
has
o
shifted
mecanismo de cifrado propietario
from
que
the
utilizaban, se ha
proprietary
cambiado
encryption
a
system
SSL.
to SSL.
Que la mensajería de Skype está haciendo uso
Skype
de la red de Microsoft.
instant
por otra parte,
messaging
ya lo
is
sabíamos.
using the Microsoft
La red de
network.
Messenger
We
de
knew that.
Microsoft, me refiero a
Well,
sitios,
I mean the
servidores que
Messenger,
se utilizan en el servicio de mensajería
Microsoft
instantánea de
Messenger
Microsoft.
sites.
Y por último, esa cantidad de sitios
And
de
then
analítica y
these
de anuncios
these sites for analytics and for ads could take us to think that Skype users are kind of becoming products, and that is detrimental to our privacy as users. And because I'm obsessed with privacy, I decided to remove the codes of Skype. Well, because we have SSLs, is my Skype user vulnerable to an SSL?
Y hasta donde llegamos analizando lo
and
que
see
tengamos
how far we can get in our
descifrado en caso de que se pueda.
analysis.
Y como os digo, pues,
And as I'm telling
trabajando en el
you,
trabajo tengo acceso a un conjunto de juguetes
at
bastante
work I
interesante.
have access to a
Decididamente
number of
otro
good
juguete
toys,
en la ecuación.
and I decided
Es
to
la
include
carpeta que
one more
veis,
toy
es que
in
la
my
analítica de
equation.
seguridad sigue donde estaba.
So
He
security
cambiado el
analytics
switch de
remains
antes
in the same
por
place. I've
un
changed
cacharro
the previous
que lo que
switch
hace es
by this
hacer
device,
intercepción de
and this
tráfico
device
SSL.
intercepts
Puede hacer
SSL
intercepción de
traffic.
tráfico SSL, tanto cuando tengo
It
la clave privada
does that interception
del
both
certificado
when I have the
digital de los
private key
servidores
of the
como
digital
cuando no la tengo.
certificate
En
of the
caso lo que
service,
necesito, como
and
vais viendo ahí en las
also
herramientas
when I
que
don't
necesito para
have
hacer esta
that
prueba,
certificate. Therefore,
una
one of
CA.
the elements that I need for this is an
un
FBA.
certificado de CA
That is to
intermedio.
say, a
Vale,
CA intermediate
para
certificate.
ver cómo de fácil era hacer el ataque, pues dije,
Well,
bueno, y como es
in order to
relativamente
see how
complicado
easy
robar
it
una
was
CA
to make
pública
an
de las que aparecen
attack,
como confiables
because
en
it
los
is difficult to steal a
dije, bueno,
public
pues voy a hacerme una
CA,
privada que total para
I
andar
said,
por
okay,
casa,
I'm going
pues
to
tiré
make
y
to
cogí
produce a
y
private
creé
one.
con mi
So I
PKI
created
del
with
PC
my
una CA intermedia.
PKI, I created an intermediate CA.
Como CA
I
confiable
loaded it
en
as
el PC.
reliable
En el
CA.
certificate
I loaded
store del
it in
sistema
my
operativo.
PC,
Vale,
in
de
the certificate
cualquier
store of my
Y de paso
operative
cogí esa
system.
misma y la cargué
And then I
como
took
CA de
this
firmas
very same
en
one
el
and I loaded it as signature
interceptor de
CA
SSL.
on
El
the
interceptor de
SSL
lo que va a hacer
interceptor.
básicamente es al vuelo,
SSL
el tráfico que venga por un
interceptor
lado con un
will
certificado
catch
digital de servidor,
the
extraer
traffic
toda la información de
with
ese
digital
certificado
certificate,
digital, el common
will
name,
abstract
etcétera,
all the
etcétera.
information, common
Se va a
name,
apuntar todas las CAs que han
etc.,
firmado ese
will
certificado
make a
y va a
note of
generarme al
all
vuelo
the
un nuevo
CAs that
certificado
have
de servidor
generated the certificates,
con esos mismos datos, pero firmado por
and
esta
then
CA.
we'll
Y
use
por todo-
those
y por
data,
manteniendo
but
el resto
signed
de la
with
cadena
that
que hay ahí.
CA, and of course, whilst keeping all the whole
Y lo
chain,
que este señor
the
intercepta
whole
es capaz de
exchange,
mandármelo
existing
además
chains.
en claro por
Whatever
otra
it is
interfaz que va a un
intercepted is
sistema
sent
de
out to
captura
me
de
through an
paquetes.
interface
Yo he usado
that
este
captures
protocolo,
packages.
pero probablemente os hubiera valido hasta
Well, I
cierto punto otro.
chose that
No para
one,
todo lo
but
que vamos a
any
hacer.
other one could also
Bien,
be
y
okay.
arranco el Skype, me pongo a
So
capturar
I
y
log on
funciona.
Skype and
Se
then
puede
I
hacer un man in
start
the
to
middle,
capture
aunque no
data
veis nada,
and
pero ya
it
voy al
works.
punto. Bien, entonces, pues
You
ya
can
veis
also
que
do
he
a
dejado de
man in
ver
the middle.
certificados digitales,
So
perdón,
I
he dejado de
stopped
ver common
and
names.
no
El
longer
informe de
see
common
common
names,
names.
certificados de servidor en SSL está vacío. Vale.
That is
Veo
empty.
nombres de distintos servidores
Then now I
HTTP
can
que
see
antes estaban
different
siendo procesados por
HTTP
HTTPS.
servers.
Y bueno, pues veis que se habla con detecto Skype sobre HTTP,
So
Windows Live,
Windows
Facebook,
Live, Facebook,
Hotmail,
Hotmail,
Azure, que es el servicio
Azure,
de cloud de Microsoft,
which is the cloud service of Microsoft.
pues se puede hacer. Así que
Well, you can do
el
that.
Skype está
So
utilizando
therefore,
al menos
Skype
parcialmente
clients are partially
cifrados
using SSL
no le dice al
encryption
usuario ni que lo está haciendo,
and
tampoco hay una forma de ver
doesn't say
qué
to the
certificados
user
están en juego.
that
Es decir,
he's doing
echo de
so,
menos el
and you cannot really
simbolito
see
del
the
candado del
certificates
navegador para ver
that
qué
are
certificados me está presentando los sistemas contra los que me estoy
running,
conectando.
because I cannot really see
Eso
the
no está ahí,
lock.
¿vale?
I don't see the lock icon
Y además
of that I
está
often
utilizando
get
el
with
certificate
certificates,
store del
and at the
sistema
same time
operativo.
is using the certificate
Porque de
store
otra
of the
manera, no hubiera
OS.
sido posible que yo hiciera esa intercepción,
Because
porque yo he
otherwise I
cargado,
would
por
not
ejemplo,
have
una
been
CA
able
privada
to make
dentro del
that
certificate store
interception.
del sistema operativo.
Therefore, this tells me that yes, I can do a mal in the middle, and then it also tells me that it is more vulnerable than those applications that come with their embedded certificate store. And then doing mal in the middle is not difficult, provided I know how to insert the CA in the list of reliable CA certificates, and the user would never ever know that I am opening that communication. Now that I know that I can do it, I want to analyze the information that I capture. And what do I capture? Well, whenever I log in, I can put this. So there is something here that I did not decipher, which is the user identification code. That could be the password of the user session that is encrypted, considering that we have the user's name. This is the user's name used by the user, in this case, for this proof. Well, here it tells us the version that I'm using, and also things that I don't know why are being done. Why do you use the user's name with the host of the machine that I'm using to log in? Do you really need that? And then what happens if we chat? Well, this is the IM. So the chat is very clear. So I can see the username. They are communicating, they are engaged in dialogue. And the next thing I was interested in was, well, if there is a file exchange, can I rebuild the file? I think so, but I did not finish it on time to show it to you today. So I can see the control channel. I can see that Skype is telling me the type of file that I'm exchanging, when the exchange starts, when it finishes, how it went. However, so far, didn't do, I don't know how it did the desencrambling, but the file transfer was there, and now I want to reconstruct the file. The next thing was like, can I listen to voice conversation? I am also working on that. I can also see a clear conversation, okay, and of course it will require more work, okay, I have to continue working on that.
Además de que uno puede ver con relativa facilidad lo que se está intercambiando.
Other than seeing easily the exchange that is taking place without the user being aware of that, another issue that was of concern to me was seeing the huge amount of things that Skype downloads in order to work, and from many different places. Many of them came from JavaScript. One of them called my extension significantly. It is not that I'm an expert on JavaScript at all. However, you can see that this comes from the chat at widget. So it's the widget that inserts ads on my chat window. And, well, this is an easy program. So it has this huge amount of lines of code for JavaScript. So it takes months to analyze all that. Well, if any JavaScript expert is interested in devoting a number of weekends to analyzing that, please let me know. Oh, I've been fast in my presentation. Conclusions. I am disappointed. I'm not longer enticed. You know, everything that was good, proprietary, encryption, supernodes, as everything in life. You know, when you grow up, things get worse. Well, proprietary encryption has been replaced by SSL.
El sistema operativo
uses certificates of the operating system in silence, so to speak. So you can do man in the middle of SSL. The only thing you have to do is to insert a private SSL as a reliable one within the OS. And then, because it downloads many data and you can do man in the middle, I would be very much surprised if you couldn't hide within those scripts a JavaScript code that will do things that we wanted it to do by using the permits that Skype uses to execute itself. Well, I've been really fast, eh? And this is all from me. Thank you so much. If you have questions, we're very happy to take them.
Hola Alberto, ¿qué tal?
Hola.
El cliente de Skype
Hello, Alberto.
fue el de Windows.
So the Skype client, was that the Windows client? Well, both, Windows as well as Mac OS.
Sin insertar una CA.
Without inserting a CA, what was the result? Before you inserted a CA, what was the result? Well, Skype does not log in, does not log on. You know, it just stays login, 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 never connects.
Viendo esto, el tema de protección de datos.
Well, data protection issue.
Viendo la legislación española en.
Well, is it that the Spanish legislation and European legislation is being breached for this, in this application?
No, Skype.
Are you referring to Skype? Oh, yes, of course. Clearly, Skype is breaching the legislation. Is there any measure in that regard? Are they taking any measures in that regard? Well, I'm sure Germany and any other countries, well, have also follow European legislation. Are they taking any measures in order to prevent or, well, to stop sending out information without having the permit or consent of the user? Look, I have no clue whatsoever about laws. I'm very happy, far from laws. You know, if you are into laws and you don't have a good lawyer, you are very likely to have big problem. I just don't know. I wish they are taking some measures in that regard, but I cannot really answer. Sorry. Well, I have a question. Did you study the certificates? Who signs them? What are their characteristics? Do each application have a different certificates? Well, I didn't do that matching, but from the names, you could see some matching or some kind of correspondence. However, others were more general. I didn't do any correlation. And who signs the certificates? Well, some were signed by Entrust, others were signed by Baltimore, whatever. So I didn't follow the chain. I didn't do that correlation. Thank you. Highly interesting talk. So you mentioned that there is a version, an early version and a posterior version where the we have different behavior. Would you tell us more about that? And then, are there any alternative to Skype? And if not, is there a possibility to create it? Well, earlier versions to 6.11, if I try to do SSL interception, even no, I don't get any interception. I cannot really intercept anything. So that is to say, I do not really see anything different in my analytics system than before, when I didn't do an interception. Well, it doesn't show up anything, right, or anything different. So to me, Skype was unique. Huh? I just don't know. I'm not aware of every single application that could do that, and I was not obsessed about Google Talk or Hangout or any other. I was obsessed by this one. I had an actual paranoia. Well, I have many paranoias. This is one of them.
Hola.
Congratulations for your work. So, authentication process associated to users, which one has been the most interesting one when you access the user number and the password? Did you do further analysis or more in-depth analysis? What is most interesting for doing exploding or thefting or theft identity? Any challenges? Well, authentication. Well, the previous steps to presenting to what I believe what it is, the user identity code. I gave it this number. I name it yourself. I don't know. Perhaps the name is Universal Incorporated. I don't know. I guess that is it. But I don't really know whether there is a previous challenge or not. But systematically, in the same point, there is always a presentation for the first time of the UIC together with the user's number. I tried to do reverse engineering from that UIC because I knew the password. So I tried different hashing systems to reproduce that chain. However, when you do that kind of blindly, by trial and error, you are using lots of resources and the success rate is low. So at this point in time, success rate is low.
Hola, mira, quería preguntarte una
Hello.
cosa, casi a título personal. Dices que la
So
versión antigua te
you
apasionaba,
say that the previous
podías saber
version,
nada
the
de
early
ella.
version, you were
Ahora
passionate
justamente
about it
puedes
because you
saber de
knew
ella
nothing about it.
porque te
Now
apasiona,
that you
quiero
can
decir.
have that
Ahora puedes
information,
investigar
you
lo
can
que
know
Microsoft
more
está haciendo
once
contigo.
you
Antes no podías.
passionate anymore, because now you know what Microsoft is doing. Why don't you like it anymore? Well, because I don't like my findings. Would you say that ignorance brings happiness? Or lack of knowledge brings happiness? Well, I never thought it that way. What I thought was the following. So if I use proprietary encryption mechanism, the possibilities not only for Microsoft, but, well, I am more concerned, perhaps I am mistaken, but my biggest concern, it was much more difficult for me from the technical viewpoint to access this information. So it is not that I lived in ignorance. Microsoft, June 2011, bought Skype. Yes, Microsoft bought Skype in May, and then in June released the patent for a legal interception system to intercept IP, voice over IP communications. I was concerned about the rest, all the others, and I say, what happens with privacy? So that you can see that communication takes place with many other places or sites that I am not fully trust, such as, I don't know, ads networks and analytics networks. So my idea is, if this is closed, it is less likely to have these intermediate type of things.
Y una última pregunta. Estas conexiones a Facebook,
So those Facebook connections, are they reflected on Skype? When you log on, Skype says, oh, I'm going to log on to Facebook and this and that. Does it tell you so? Well, perhaps it's me who doesn't know how to find that information. Yes, I was really surprised when I found out. I was not surprised when I found out ads, because there was a little thing over there changing all the time. I was surprised by finding analytics. What is the type of information that it gathers? Whom I call, how often do I call that person? Thank you.